Welcome to this explainer. Today, we are taking a fully immersive, visually stunning virtual tour through a landscape that is just immense. We're talking massive scale, incredibly ancient history, and some truly unparalleled biodiversity. We are exploring the northern Indian state of Uttarakhand. So whether you're fascinated by towering icy peaks, centuries-old architecture, or vibrant untouched wildlife ecosystems, buckle up because we're going to guide you through exactly what makes this region so absolutely unique.
Okay, let's dive into this right off the bat by looking at the name itself, Uttarakhand. It's derived straight from Sanskrit. Uttara means north, and Khand means land. So quite literally, it's the northern land. Simple enough, right? But culturally, it holds a much deeper title. It's widely revered as Devbhoomi, which beautifully translates to the land of the gods. And you'll see why. It's because of this vast, dense network of ancient Hindu temples, holy rivers, and massive pilgrimage centers that are basically woven into the very fabric of the state.
To actually wrap our heads around this massive region today, we're going to break it down into 4 main stops. First, its geographic personality. Second, a quick journey through history. Third, heritage and sacred sites. And finally, its thriving flora and fauna. Starting off with Section 1, the geographic personality. We literally can't talk about the people or the wildlife until we grasp the sheer, dramatic physical topography of the land itself. Let's talk scale for a second. 53,484 square kilometers. That's the total footprint of Uttarakhand. But here is the truly awe-inspiring fact. A staggering 93% of this massive space is mountainous. 93%. Imagine what that means for everyday human life. It means almost every single road, town, and farm has to be carved directly out of steep stone. It's this extreme land where the earth literally reaches for the sky, full of deep valleys, sheer cliffs, and massive glaciers that feed some of the most critical rivers on the entire Indian subcontinent.
Now, administratively, the state naturally divides into 2 complementary regions. It's like 2 sides of the same coin. On the west, we've got the Garhwal division. This area is super famous for being the source of 2 of India's biggest, most sacred rivers, the Ganges and the Yamuna, both of which originate from massive glaciers right up there. Then, contrast that with the eastern half, the Kumaon division. This side is famous for its dense, pristine forests and a really rich history as the seat of ancient hill kingdoms. Historically, these 2 regions were actually rivals, but today they share this completely inseparable geography and culture that unifies the whole state.
To really grasp the sheer scale of the Garhwal and Kumaon geography, we've got to look up at the Greater Himalayas, way up. The absolute crown jewel here is Nanda Devi, standing at a breathtaking 7,816 meters. To put that into perspective for you, that is literally just shy of the cruising altitude of some commercial airplanes. It's the second highest mountain peak in all of India and the highest one located entirely within the country's borders. And it's not alone. Alongside it, you've got titans like Comet, Abigamine, Mukut Parbat, and Hardial. These aren't just mountains, they're monumental, icy fortresses that have completely dictated the region's climate, its culture, and its isolation for millennia. Let's move to Section 2, a journey through history. Because this dramatic physical geography we just looked at, it wasn't just empty wilderness. It's been the stage for a seriously fascinating timeline of settlement and empire.
If we take a quick walk through this timeline, it's pretty wild. We see evidence of human habitation dating all the way back to prehistoric rock shelters and early Vedic practices. Tradition even holds that the sage Vyasa scripted the massive epic, the Mahabharata, right here in this state. By the 2nd century BC, the region was seeing early dynasties like the Kunnadas. Fast forward to the medieval era, and the whole area consolidated into those powerful Garhwal and Kumaon kingdoms we mentioned earlier. But things changed. By 1803, the expanding Gorkha Empire from Nepal overran the area. That directly sparked the Anglo-Nepalese War, which concluded with the 1816 Treaty of Sugauli, handing much of modern Uttarakhand over to the British. Finally, skipping ahead a bit, after a hugely powerful grassroots movement in the 1990s, Uttarakhand officially achieved statehood on November 9, 2000. So when you visit today, you aren't just walking on mountains, you are walking on literal layers of ancient empires.
Which brings us nicely to Section 3, heritage and sacred sites. Centuries of changing empires and deep devotion have left a magnificent architectural footprint carved right into these mountains.
So the crucial point here is how this extreme landscape heavily dictates the heritage. Take Tungnat, for example. It isn't just an ancient temple, it is literally the highest Hindu shrine dedicated to Lord Shiva in the entire world. It perfectly encapsulates that whole spirit of Dev Bhumi, a place where deep faith and extreme, unforgiving altitudes completely merge. You literally have to make uphill climbs to reach your spiritual milestones here.
The architectural tapestry across this state tells such a diverse story. You've got the ancient stone temples of Badrinath and Kedarnath, built specifically to anchor holy pilgrimage circuits deep in the mountains. Now compare those sacred, peaceful structures to the rugged military history of the Chunpur Gari Fort, perched up on a steep defensive cliff. Then, completely shifting gears, you have proof of the ancient reach of Buddhism into this region with the Ashokan Rock Edict at Khalsi, carved in Brahmi script all the way back in the 3rd century BC. And jumping forward to the colonial era, you've got 19th century British structures like St. John's Church, built in 1844 with this magnificent Gothic architecture. It is a true historical crossroads.
Okay, so we've seen the rocks, the history, and the monuments. But a landscape this vast and dynamic isn't just a museum of stone, right? It really begs the question, who else calls these towering mountains and deep valleys home?
That brings us to our final stop, Section 4, Thriving Flora and Fauna. The living, breathing landscape. The region's wildly varying altitudes create an absolute hotspot for biodiversity.
I want you to burn this number into your brain, 65%. While we learned earlier that 93% of the state is mountainous, 65% of the total geographical area is thickly blanketed by forest cover. That is massive. It exceeds the national average by a fair margin and provides this incredible, dense habitat for thousands of species of plants and animals.
Because the elevation changes so drastically, going from the lowland plains all the way up to the high glaciers, the plant life is cleanly layered into really distinct zones. Down in the subtropical lowlands, you're walking through thick forests of sal and haldu trees. Move up higher to the temperate zone, and the landscape shifts completely to dense oak and pine forests. This is also where you find the Barins, this gorgeous rhododendron tree that famously sets the snowy panorama on fire with its blazing red flowers every spring. Finally, up in the freezing subalpine and alpine zones, you find resilient Bojpatra trees and an incredible wealth of high-altitude medicinal herbs that somehow manage to survive in the harshest climates on Earth.
Now, what's really interesting here is what's nestled within these distinct forest zones. Specifically, the state bird of Uttarakhand, the monal. The bird life here is incredibly rich. Over 400 varieties have been recorded, but the monal truly steals the show. It has this resplendent plumage flashing metallic green, glistening purple and startling red against jet-black feathers. It is an absolute visual marvel to encounter as it moves in small groups through the Himalayan forests.
And the mammal population? They play by those exact same altitude rules. High up in the rocky, snowy peaks, you'll find the incredibly elusive snow leopard quietly hunting the agile Himalayan blue sheep, or baral. Just a bit lower, you'll spot the Kastura, the musk deer, navigating those steep, covered hills. But as you travel down into the lower, much warmer jungles of the Tarai and Babar regions, the ecosystem shifts entirely. It escalates in intensity, becoming the roaming ground for the thunderous Bengal tiger and the massive Himalayan black bear. It's a completely different world down there.
And this brilliantly illustrates the state's fierce commitment to protecting this rich heritage. Uttarakhand boasts some truly world-renowned sanctuaries. Jim Corbett National Park, which was established way back in 1936, is actually the oldest national park on the Asian mainland. No way, right? Then you have the visually stunning Valley of Flowers, a recognized UNESCO World Heritage Site, and the sprawling Nanda Devi Biosphere Reserve. All told, over 12% of the state's forest cover falls entirely under a strict protected area network.
Which brings us to the end of our virtual tour today, and it leaves us with a really vital question to ponder. As more and more people discover the magic of these mountains, the rivers, the ancient temples, and the tigers, how can we balance experiencing the awe-inspiring heights of Dev Bhumi while actively preserving its ancient heritage and that fragile 65% forest cover for generations to come? It's a challenge as monumental as the Himalayas themselves. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. I hope you absolutely enjoyed the journey.